haven't. You volunteered...
together.
But in terms of the thing, you would advise them to, if there was a challenge, to vote for John.
I hope there will not be a challenge. I hope there will not be a challenge. Better not to have it. I had to go through it twice, and it destabilizes the power of the Prime Minister and takes your eye off the main ball.
But if there was a challenge, you'd recommend them to vote for John, would you?
I am a supporter of John Major.
So you'd recommend to them to vote for John? You would?
Yes.
And in terms of Tony Blair, you paid a great compliment to him the other day. You said he is probably the most formidable leader we've seen since Gaitskell. I see a lot of socialism behind their front bench, but not in Mr. Blair. I think he genuinely has moved, you think?
I think he genuinely has moved. He says he agrees with some of the things which I did, although the whole party fought me tooth and nail against it, and these things would never have come about but for me. But when you then go to look, all the trade union reforms we did, you then go to look at the social charter, many of those would be undermined. And I personally think that what they're able to say now is, look, we're getting rid of a certain amount of socialism, we're wanting a third way, as the Social Democratic Party did. There is no third way. It's either socialism or a free society.
So there is no
go that way.
There is no third way, no middle way. A middle way doesn't work.
There is no middle way.
No compromise.
No,
consensus in the middle.
Sweden tried a middle way. They finished up by taking 70% of the output of Sweden under taxation into expenditure by the government. And only 30% of the people. Of course it did, and it even then got a deficit. Do you know why people at the moment are not perhaps quite so conservative as they were? Because they feel that we've put on more taxes, and they want to be able to have more of the fruits of their own work, to spend in their own way, on benefiting their own children, and building up their own ownership of a house. They're already rebelling against the extra taxation they've had. So if you went, and I'm sure you would get more under Labour, you've only to listen to them. Behind all this facade, listen to them. Look at that social charter. It's a socialist policy, and just realise it before you get it back by the back door.
But you don't think that Tony Blair is a socialist? You think that there are socialists behind? You think he's given up socialism himself?
I believe he has moved, and I believe that, I say, he's a very competent person. But if you look at the policies, you see there's a lot of rhetoric at the moment. Keep your eye on those policies and analyse them.
So that you don't agree with these people, some of them from the right, who say what the Tories need, what we need is a defeat so that we can go into opposition and regroup ourselves ideologically.
That's crazy. If you went into opposition, you may not get back for many years. They might change the voting system. I'll never forget what Jim Callaghan did, all the devices that he did to stay in power, the Lib-Lab Pact, and so on. If there is a disagreement with the present government on the part of the elect, it's that it's not been conservative enough. People knew certainly what I believed. I believed that if you give a bit of help by tax relief to people to buy their own houses, that's far better to help them to become independent owners than having to spend more money to build housing association houses or council houses. And they feel that they had faith in my policy, and they bought houses, and they've had the tax relief on mortgages cut 3 times, 3 years in succession. They feel they've had 3% tax put on insurance, which hits the homeowner. They feel that they've had the married man's tax allowance reduced. They are saying to us, let's get the message. You've not been conservative enough. And I think that what we need to do is to reduce the tax on family.
What is the answer, do you think, to that?
Well, I personally think that the mortgage relief should be restored. I also thought that it should be what originally it was when the £25,000 upon which relief is gauged was introduced. It should be a much higher figure than that. We put it up to 30,000.
Simon Jenkins in the Times the other day, with all the controversy going on about your relationship with John Major and so on, came up with a long-argued case, saying really that John Major's been a very good Thatcherite, really, that he hasn't sold the past. John Major handled the 1991 treaty negotiations just as Lady Thatcher handled the 1986 Single European Act. And then he concludes, but on coal, the post office, energy prices, London hospitals and countless other Thatcherite issues, he risks reverse after reverse from his backbenchers rather than abandon the cause. The apprentice has sung the master singer's tune, prestissimo, if occasionally falsetto. He's saying that he's been just as good a Thatcherite as you were.
Well, I just indicated where I disagreed very firmly on something which goes to the heart and root of everything I believed in. And the answer to Simon Jenkins is quite simply this. I was turned out because I said to Europe, no, no, no. That no, no, no is turned into yes, yes. 2 yeses, not 3. He got the social charter out and he's reserved his position on the single currency. So there is a difference. And insofar as there is a difference, I think that's why we do not at the moment have the full support of the public. But I hope we'll make it clear as an election comes up, there's a big gap between the parties in practice. And John has done many things which are still conservative. Very conservative, thank goodness, and he's going on to try to privatize. I think public expenditure has got up higher than I would have had it. I think, women are better at saying no to some of these things than men.
Why is that, do you think?
Oh, we can keep a tight hand on the purse strings. We have to sometimes.
You can keep a tight hand.
More experience.
You mentioned the nicknames in the book that you were given and so on. Which were the memorable ones to you?
Well, the Iron Lady, I think, lasted long. It was Attila the Hen, I remember. The Russians nicknamed me the Iron Lady. They were quite right. It was a very good assessment.
And the headlines always said, Maggie stands firm, Maggie does this, Maggie does... Is there anyone who's ever actually calls you Maggie?
Oh, yes, quite a lot of people. Oh, yes.
Do you quite like it?
Yes. I think it's a term of affection. Somehow it's softer than Margaret, isn't it?
Yes.
Maggie.
Yes, it is.
Softer than
yes,
Margaret.
And
well,
does
Margaret means a pearl.
Does it?
A lovely luminescent stone. Yes. Yes.
And did Dennis, as it said in the Dear Bill letters, refer to you as the boss?
No.
No.
No. But then he didn't write the Dear Bill letters.
No, that's
Some people think he did.
Yeah. Well, they were so accurate,
yes.
Some people said.
Yes.
And in terms, you said in the book, you said that work was always your secret elixir, that if you were down or whatever else, work was always... Is it still your secret elixir?
Yes, I don't know what I'd do if I didn't work. It's what I still want to do. And I can't see myself ever doing anything else. You can read, you can go to concerts, you can go to theatre, you can go and see the wonderful treasure chests that we have in London in the museums, you can have friends in. But I think to keep yourself in touch, you want still to keep working.
And 10 years' time, would you be working as hard as you are today?
Well, Dennis is 10 years older than me, and he's still working.
Yeah. So you don't really admit to the word retirement.
No.
When we were talking a couple of years ago, when your first volume came out, I quoted some business magazine that said that you had personally accumulated 63 million. And to which you very quickly...
It must be mad. Pence?
Yes, well, pence indeed. And
I'm not sure how much that would work out.
Yes, but I mean, do you think of yourself now as wealthy?
No. I think of myself as running an office and comfortable. And it's nice to be comfortable. Very nice to be comfortable.
And
yes.
Do you think, so looking back with the benefit of hindsight, would you say that the Conservative Party made a mistake when they got rid of you back in November 1990?
The doctor said the old girl's had her chance and must have someone else. Who am I to complain? I got my chance, so I don't object to anyone else having theirs, and indeed I did everything I could to support John, and still do.
And in fact, in terms of that, would life be different? Would things be different if you were still there?
Yes.
In what way?
As different as my personality and beliefs are from what's going on at present. But don't forget, I had a big majority. I'd been there 11 and a half years. Some others said, all right, the old girl's over the hill, we'll get someone else. I wasn't over the hill. I'm not over the hill yet.
And if you'd like to comment on that interview, tomorrow morning Lord Cecil Parkinson and David Mellor will be online to take your calls. The number to ring, 0345 514 614. That's Westminster Online, tomorrow morning at 8:15 on BBC2.
The inside story of a real mountain rescue team.
Within seconds I was cartwheeling down the slope. Screamed out, "Oh no, I'm going to die."
When you face reality, you know that the team members couldn't possibly have survived.
Live a story from the inside. Thursday, 10:15, BBC1.
In half an hour, a laid-back cartoonist has his complacency shattered when he's framed for murder. Enough to give anyone a jolt. Slam Dance at 11:30. After a look at the latest releases with Barry Norman and Film 95.
Tonight, Nick Nolte and Greta Scacchi star in Jefferson in Paris. I'll be talking to Samuel L. Jackson and Jeremy Irons about Die Hard with a Vengeance. And as this is the last programme in the current series, I'll also be previewing some of the other films coming away this summer. Good evening. Thomas Jefferson drew up the American Declaration of Independence, was later appointed ambassador to the court of King Louis XVI, later still became president, and has his head on the 5-cent piece to this day. And that's pretty well all I knew about him going in to see Jefferson in Paris, Nick Nolte in the title role, and that's pretty well all I knew about him coming out. Well, no, I did learn some personal stuff. I learnt that he was a widower with a close attachment to his elder daughter, that he had an unconsummated love affair with Maria Cosway, played by Greta Scacchi, an Anglo-Italian artist, and wife of the painter Richard Cosway, played by Simon Callow, and that he impregnated Sally Hemings, a 15-year-old black slave, played by Tandy Newton. Today, of course, such a deed would have him arrested, but we're talking 18th century here, and them days was different. Even so, it doesn't show him up in a very good light.
Whatever these learned French surgeons may say, our old American remedies are still the best. Now, Sally, since the cure was due to your administrations, it's only right that the results should be to your benefit.
Yes, Master.
To